Well, welcome in once again, everybody, to the best live video podcast golf show on the planet. You know it as the 19th Hole Podcast for Golfers. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers, welcoming you in, and we got a great show for you today. The weather here in Las Vegas, it's raining. We need the rain, but I'm a hot weather guy. I like it hot. Rain is great. We need it. The animals need it. But let's have it rain at night when you're sleeping, when you have to run around in it during the day doing errands and this and that and the other. It gets a little bit, inconvenient. But it could be worse. We could be snowing. It could be like a lot of the country is experiencing, very, very cold temperatures, snow, tornadoes, whatever. Anyway, a lot going on in the golf world. As I mentioned last week, next week, Super Bowl week. Super Bowl is here, as you know, by the way, in Allegiant Stadium. We've got a live event in Las Vegas Country Club, so we hope we get a lot of people turning out for that. I'm certainly going to be out there doing some interviews, and I hope we get a lot of people out there to experience what a live event is like. And it's obviously a lot different than the normal tour experience, but we'll talk about that after the fact. And we've got a very good guest for you. I have what I feel is a pretty extensive golf library. A lot of books, love it. And we have a gentleman on today that has written 2 books. His new book is coming out in the spring, but you probably could pre-order it now, I'm sure, and we'll talk about that. Let me tell you a little bit about our special guest, Mr. Ward Clayton. Ward is a much-respected communications professional, author, and an editor with a couple of decades of experience. Ward is the owner of Clayton Communications. He is the producer of the 2019 documentary, Loopers, The Caddy's Long Walk, and the author of Men on the Bag, The Caddies of Augusta National, and that, I believe, was written in 2004. His new book, due out in the spring, called The Legendary Caddies of Augusta National. Ward is a former sports writer with the Durham Morning Herald, the sports editor of the Augusta Chronicle. I didn't even know Augusta had a Chronicle. And director of editorial services for the PGA Tour. So he's got a very, very extensive background in that area. So right now, without further ado, let's bring Mr. Ward Clayton on. Ward, thanks for taking time out, coming on the show. Look forward to talking to you about the books, I should say, and getting into that. Let me start off and ask you this, Ward. What brought about your seemingly fascination with Augusta National?
I first went to the Masters 40 years ago this year, Dennis.
Wow.
1985, Bernhard Langer wearing his all red outfit and looked like Christmas when he won the tournament and was wearing a green jacket. But when I walked to the golf course, I stepped on the golf course wearing a pair of sunglasses. I thought I was walking on artificial turf. I had to put my hand down and feel it because the golf course is so manicured. And so just a lot of the historic value of that tournament, the golf course, just the way people revered being there, whether you're a player, whether you're an official, whether you're a fan. It was just the combination of everything that sort of drew the interest. And plus, I grew up in the South. I grew up in North Carolina. So you always hear about the origins of the tournament and how it started and things like that. So that always intrigued me.
Yeah. Ward, maybe I think you'll agree with me. I know, having watched the Masters on television for a lot of years, showing the different holes, you kind of get an idea of what the golf course is like. But the first time I went to Augusta and saw it in person, I said, wow, this is so much different than you see on TV. you don't get, all of the false fronts on the greens on a lot of holes, the humps and bumps in the fairway, and it just was totally different. Was that an impression that you got the first time that you went there?
Oh, most definitely. It's still the case. When you go to Augusta, if you walk to the 10th tee, it's like you're looking down a ski slope,
Yeah, yeah,
going from the tee down to the bottom of the fairway, all the
right,
way through the 11th hole down to Race Creek. It's
right.
even though technology has really shown the golf course better, you still don't get a sense of how
Yeah.
hilly the golf course is, and you'll get a full sense of it when you walk around the golf course, because your legs will be pretty sore.
That's exactly right. Your legs are going to be pretty sore. Let me ask you this. It just came into my head. If you know, how is it that Augusta National came about to be the course that hosts this major championship every year? Do you think they might have looked at
Bobby,
other courses in other parts of the country to hold this?
well, Bobby Jones from Atlanta
Right,
was dominating golf in the 20s,
right.
and he used to go play in the Southeastern Open at Forest Hills Golf Course in Augusta, and he saw how hilly the terrain was, how you could play golf there in the early spring. In Atlanta, it was still too cold, and he said, "Gosh, one day I'm going to start my own golf tournament and start my own golf course." And so they did their homework after he won the Grand Slam in 1930
Right.
and found this piece of property, which was a nursery, a plant nursery. And lo and behold, they discovered the golf course. It was just by happenstance. It was like going out and finding some real estate, and all of a sudden they say, "Wow, this is the perfect piece of property. I can stand here
Yeah.
and look down and see a lot of the golf course just from where the clubhouse is situated."
Yeah.
So that's Jones retired and built his own golf course and started a tournament basically for his friends. It wasn't for any more than that. You know, he wasn't going to start the Masters tournament then, but he just did it for his friends.
Yeah. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. And and as they say, the rest is history. Well, let me follow that up, Ward, and ask you, what prompted you then to write about the caddies at Augusta National that you did?
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second there. Please repeat. I apologize.
Sure.
My
No,
Wi-Fi
no
just
problem.
bounced out. Yep.
I was going to say,
Yep.
what prompted you then to write about the caddies at Augusta?
Oh, sure.
That you did, because they have quite a history. They're interesting characters themselves. And I bet you, throughout the years, depending on the people who they looped for, they could have some pretty interesting stories as well.
Dennis, 25 years ago, this spring, I was a sports editor at the Augusta Chronicle. I was there from 91 until 2000, the newspaper. And we got a call from this young lady who said that her father had passed away, and it was Willie Peterson, who caddied for 5 of Jack Nicklaus's 6 Masters wins.
Right.
And Vanessa Peterson Fox said that her father had passed away in New York. And it sort of rang true for me, Dennis, because when we were doing all these historical stories about the Masters, we would always encounter these caddies just by nickname. It didn't have their given name. And I'm going, well, wow, I wish I knew more about who Iron Man was. I wish I knew more about who Willie Peterson was. I wish I knew more about Stovepipe, people like this. And so it brought the idea of we need to tell the story from these caddies' perspective, because unfortunately, in their heyday from the 30s until the 80s, probably, at least up until the 70s, the caddies were not written about or publicized, A, because they were caddies, and B, because they were all black.
Right.
So the press probably did not feel that it was a worthwhile story beyond the player.
Yeah.
So, fortunately for me, there was so much material there behind the scenes that you deal with. Dennis, you're always, if you've been to golf tournaments enough to know that if you talk to a caddy's going to have some insight
Oh, yeah.
that's going to be
Oh, yeah.
invaluable,
Exactly.
and they're going to tell you some stories. The big thing is you got to cut through some of the stuff and figure out what's true and what's not true. So, but still, it was fascinating to learn. Carl Jackson, who caddied for Ben Crenshaw for his two Masters wins, learning Carl's background and his family and all this stuff like this, which is really sort of a slice of civil rights story.
Yeah.
It really was about how they overcame a lot of different things just to get to their workplace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So that always intrigued me about how much they contributed to the guys winning the tournament, but even more so, the neighborhood they came from, how they got there, and some of the barriers they had to get around to get there.
Right. Yeah. You know what would be interesting as hell, Ward? How some of these guys, and you brought it up, got their nickname. Who gave them that name?
Oh, okay.
Why did they give them that name? And so I think that would be fascinating. And you probably know why on a couple of them, I'm sure.
I'll give you a few of my favorite ones. How about that?
Okay, great.
1971 Masters, Charlie Cootie won the tournament. Charlie's pretty much of a journeyman player.
Mm-hmm.
He comes to the 1971 Masters. On Saturday afternoon, he's walking up the 8th fairway. He's in the lead at the tournament. His caddy is a gentleman named Walter Pritchett, who has the nickname Cricket.
Cricket.
And Cricket has a nickname because he's tall and thin and resembles a cricket. So they're on the 8th fairway, and Cricket says, "Mr. Cootie, what time does TV come on today?" And Charlie Cootie's not thinking about TV. He's thinking about Jack Nicklaus and Johnny Miller chasing him down on the weekend. So finally he says, "Well, I don't know what time it comes on. Why are you so concerned about this?" I said, "Well, Mr. Cootie, I drive a bus in Atlanta as my full-time job. And I didn't really think you were going to play this well. And next thing you know, when the TV cameras come on, Cricket had taken the towel off of the golf bag, taken his hat off, draped his towel over his head, and put his hat on over his towel. And on Saturday and Sunday of the 3rd and 4th rounds of the Masters, Cricket on the whole back nine has got this towel draped over his head because he's trying to hide from the TV cameras and hide from his boss at the bus company in Atlanta, because he's told his boss he's gone to visit his sick grandmother in Texas. So Charlie Cootie indicates that he wasn't thinking as much about Nicklaus and Miller as he was laughing at his caddy on the back nine trying to be in disguise.
Oh, that's hysterical. What a great story.
So that his nickname Cricket doesn't really tie into what he did, but still that always intrigues me that he did something that got his player's mind off the pressure of being in the final round of the Masters.
That is a great story. That is fantastic. Anyway, Ward, hang in there with us. We got to take a break right now, a short break, and we will come back and spend a lot more time with our special guest, Mr. Ward Clayton. Stay with us. We return right after this, I promise. The revolutionary Power to Golf Club requires no swing to hit golf shots from 50 up to 225 yards. That's right, no swing. It's empowering golfers with physical issues to continue enjoying time golfing with friends and family. With just the push of a button, the easy-to-use Power to Golf Club launches shots down the fairway and onto the green. Whether a physical issue or just want to join in on the fun, the Power to Golf Club is for you. Visit online, powergolfclub.com. One of the perks about being in golf media is that I get to try every club ever made. Of course, like most things, some are better than others. I'm here to tell you that I have found unquestionably the absolute best performing set of irons I have ever played, and my scores show it. Let me introduce you to Grindworks, custom fitted irons that are made to fit your game. Grindworks offers players 3 different styles of irons. You can choose muscle back irons, cavity back irons, and even blades, along with some awesome wedges. And when you purchase your clubs, Grindworks lets you choose the type of shaft you want, the type grip you prefer, and even will adjust the loft and lie of your clubs if needed. That's unheard of. So what are you waiting for? Feel the power and experience and performance of these amazing clubs. Simply go to grindworksusa.com or call 281-651-4046 to order. Trust me, your handicap will love you for it. All right, welcome back, everybody. We have a lot more with our special guest author, Ward Clayton, talking about Augusta National and the real characters of Augusta and the lifeblood there, really, of the caddies that were there. Ward, what does the editorial services director for the PGA Tour do for people that don't know?
Okay. When I worked at the tour, I don't work at the tour anymore. But when I
Not
worked
anymore,
there,
right?
we oversaw all the media guides the media gets. All the player bios, all the
Yeah.
records, all the schedules, things of that nature, and a lot of the publications that the tour produced, whether it be special sections with Golf Digest or Golf Magazine or with Forbes and things like that. I was sort of the editor and the editorial director of all those publications during the course of those years.
Okay. Who was the commissioner when you worked there, Ward?
Tim Fincham.
Tim Fincham. Okay. That brings me to, what are your thoughts now on this investment group buying into the PGA Tour? It's kind of funny to me. You got multimillionaires that are, sports team owners that are buying into the tour that's loaded with other millionaires. And I don't know. It seems kind of weird to me. I don't know how this is all going to work out, but what are your thoughts about it?
Well, the people that are investing are billionaires in this with a B.
Okay.
And the players are millionaires. So you got to keep, there's a little bit of difference. I think this is still to be determined. I think a lot of people still don't know how this is going to be coordinated.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. The announcement yesterday, and I think it's going to be quite some time before we figure out how this works. Supposedly the players are going to have equity in their tour now. So
Right.
basically they're even more of an ownership opportunity. But I don't know how that works. I hope it stays, the better you play, the more equity you have.
Right. Exactly.
And not just based upon your reputation. Hopefully, if you make more birdies and win more tournaments, you go up the pecking order. Hopefully, that's still the case.
Right. I
But
agree
I
with
don't
you.
know how it's going to work out. There's still a lot to be answered, and it's been that way for quite some time, Dennis. So I don't
Yeah.
really know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You're right. And the commissioner is going to be, running this thing too, essentially having the same kind of job. And that's going to be interesting because, Ward, between you and I really think the commissioner is eventually going to lose his job. I might be wrong, but, we'll see what happens. All right, let me bring you thoughts about the Live Tour and the impact that is having on the PGA Tour as you see it, because these guys are here to stay, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I agree. They're here to stay. The only, they've got some named players over there. My only question is the competitive landscape there. They're playing 54 holes,
Right.
and I don't really understand how that was determined. I think it's forever and ever 72 holes have been the determining factor on who's the
Yeah,
best player
yeah,
week over week.
yeah, yep.
So I get lost in a little bit of the format in that way, and also some of the team component, which I don't understand how that works on a weekly basis. So I'm sure you'll learn more about that when they come to Vegas next week.
Yeah.
But it's the competitive landscape is not as great, I don't think, as we're used to, and it's really difficult to watch their broadcast. I know they're still in their infancy, but it's still a hard piece to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you. They do need to do some tweaking, and that was one of the things that a lot of people said, why are they only playing 54 holes? Okay, I get the music, I get the shorts and the whole thing, but I totally agree with you, and I think the broadcasting efforts have to be kicked up a couple of notches, and the team thing I also agree with you. But on the other hand, to win it, you still got to keep the pedal to the metal, even though it's 54 holes. You got to make the putts, you got to hit the shots. And, I said when this thing first started, there are a number of well-known tour players that are kind of waiting in line to join Live. And as you know, over the last couple of weeks, they've lost a couple of, well-known players to them. And I think that's going to continue to happen. So we'll see if they can merge and put an agreement together, maybe do something together tournament-wise, get this world ranking points fiasco straightened out. But that's all to be seen. Ward, how many times have you played Augusta?
Fortunately, when I worked at the Augusta Chronicle as a sports editor, they allow the local media to come out there in late May before the course closes for the summer, and we get to play around. So that was
Nice.
that was quite the perk to have there as far as being a
nice.
local media representative. Yeah,
That's
it'd be sort of like in Vegas there if you got invited to go to Shadow Creek on a yearly basis and play rounds of golf. So,
yeah. And it's only $1,200 out of Shadow Creek. So that's what it is, Ward. That's what it is. And you have to be staying at one of the MGM properties to add insult to injury. But Shadow Creek is a wonderful, wonderful golf course. Jim's a good friend of mine. His son is on tour doing very well. But yeah, I hear you. How did the par 3 thing come about, Ward, if you know?
The par 3 course?
Yeah.
They were before their time. Think about how many prominent golf clubs are now adding short courses to their facilities.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ramping up times 10 across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Jones and Cliff Roberts put their heads together and wanted to build a course the members could sort of have a cold beverage and walk around and play in a short period of time and sort of have fun versus getting beaten up by the big course.
Yeah.
So they took a piece of property adjacent to the 10th hole and just built a par 3 course. And I think it's always fun to see them let their hair down, so to speak, on the Wednesday before the tournament when you go play the par 3 course.
Sure.
So, and the kids get involved too. So, and you can have kids who serve as caddies and wearing the patented jumpsuit and so forth. So I just think it's a cool little feature of the tournament that's sort of unique to that particular event.
Yeah, I do too. And one thing that is very impressive to me about Augusta, and of course you have to be there to experience it, you have a constant line like this, as going into the pro shop. They sell a ton of merchandise, which is great, but the one thing I noticed, Ward, is that the stuff there is certainly in my opinion, not anywhere near overpriced. When you go out and you get a pimento sandwich and a beer and a bag of chips, you are not paying a lot of money for that, Ward. You're going, what? It's only $5? You're kidding me. Over this course, it would be $25. I thought that was very impressive.
think about it, Dennis, for a second. The food is so inexpensive. And
Yeah.
that came about because when the tournament started, they were trying to lure people regionally to come to the tournament. So you would, probably in the 40s and the 50s, you'd drive to Augusta from Charlotte, for example, which is, a couple hours away, and you want to eat while you're on site. So they said, well, we need to feed the people when they come here. And if you think about it, if you're lucky enough to get a master's badge tickets
Yeah.
aren't that expensive if
No.
you're on the list. The food's not expensive. But the thing is, when you come to the tournament, say, Dennis, your brother or your sister or your friends are saying, oh, you're going to be at the Masters. Would you buy me a shirt? Would you buy me a hat?
Right,
Next
exactly.
thing you know, Dennis, you're walking in the golf shop and you're at least buying a hat and a shirt for yourself.
Right.
And you're probably spending 125, 150 bucks at the least. And then you got to buy for everybody that knows you're there. And next thing you know, you're walking out and you maxed out your credit card. So that's where the pricing of the goods like shirts and hats and so forth are pretty standard, but the food and the ticket prices are
Yeah.
less than market value. Plus, when you park, Dennis, you don't pay anything to park.
Yeah.
You just park next door and walk in. It's not like you got to pay 20, 30 bucks to park
Exactly.
adjacent to the facility.
Exactly. No, that's one of the things I got to tip my hat to them for. They're not screwing over the people that attend. Ward, how has the role of caddies changed from the past, what you write about in your books, to say the modern era, so to speak? What's the biggest difference that you have seen?
When Arnold Palmer became popular in parallel to television in the late 50s, early 60s, purses went up on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
As a result of that, caddies are going to be making a larger percentage.
Right.
So that's when, starting in probably the 60s, 70s, maybe into the 80s in particular, people could make a living being a caddy if you had the right guy.
Right.
And I'll use Steve Williams as an example, who was Tiger's caddy back in the late 90s when Stevie was caddying for Tiger. I think one year, Steve's from New Zealand, he was the highest paid, quote, athlete in the country of New Zealand.
Really? Wow.
Because Tiger had made so much money, won so
yeah.
much that year, and Steve got a percentage of that. Next thing you know, Steve, who's a big farming enthusiast, went and bought a new tractor of land, and next thing you know, he's set for life because he was on Tiger's bag during that time. So I just think caddying probably changed about 40 years ago, and that's probably a lot of the reason that the all-black caddy corps at Augusta went by the wayside from 1982 to 1983 was because caddies had become more of a profession, and the prominent players in the world wanted their guy to be with them in order for them to have the maximum opportunity to win the event.
Right. No, 100%. Well said. Are the days of picking up a local caddy, are those days gone forever, Ward? I think they are.
Well, there's still a little bit of that, Dennis. Not very much. You might have an occasional veteran player or an amateur player who will pick them up. I think the interesting study is, and you're probably familiar with the precursor to the Masters, the Augusta National Women's Amateur. They play the first two rounds of that 54-hole event off-site in Augusta, and then they cut the field to the top 30. They play Wednesday, Thursday. Everybody gets to come to Augusta National for a practice round on Friday,
Right.
and everybody must use an Augusta caddy that day.
Right. Right.
And when they go to the final round on Saturday, a lot of the young ladies who have their dad or their brother or best friend caddying for them off site, they'll say, "Oh, I might need to get an Augusta caddy to caddy here." In 2019, when Jennifer Kupcho, who's playing on the LPGA Tour now, when she won that event, she had Brian McKinley, who's an Augusta National caddy, caddying for her, coming off the 8th green, Jennifer had a migraine headache and lost the vision in one of her eyes. And she couldn't see very well coming up the ninth hole. And she relied on Brian to guide her through the ninth hole. He found a member who got her a soft drink, and she was able to take her migraine medication. And by the 11th tee, all her faculties had been restored, and she went on to birdie 4 of the last 5 holes and win the tournament. And so she was leaning on that caddy to get her through a really trying time.
Yeah.
If she would have had somebody else, that might not have happened.
Yeah.
So I still think there's a sense of that, where you have a lot of the tradition of the caddies at Augusta being such a vital part, whether it's green reading, pulling clubs, or just keeping somebody at ease. And that's the perfect example.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story. Wonderful story. Anyway, Ward, hang in there again. We're going to step away, take another short break. We come back, we will finish up with author Mr. Ward Clayton. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As golfers, we want instant gratification when it comes to a better golf swing and playing better golf. Impossible, you say? Not anymore. Golf Boost Artificial Intelligence, AI, has developed and patented the most advanced swing analysis technology in golf. Simply, the algorithms detect your body position and then analyze your golf swing using their artificial intelligence technology. The AI captures all the relevant data from your swing video and then presents you a personalized lesson. Golf Boost AI is the ultimate swing analysis and virtual instruction system for golfers of all ages and abilities. This sophisticated software takes into consideration your height and build, playing level, and returns the ideal solution for your swing. Bottom line, Golf Boost AI is an incredibly convenient and cost-effective tool for golfers to improve their swing. Go to golfboost.com and check it out. The app is free to download and try. Visit golfboost.com today.
All right, we are back, everybody, having a wonderful historical type conversation with author Ward Clayton. And Ward, let me ask you, what was the process in doing your documentary?
I wrote the original Caddy book in 2004, Dennis, and over the course of the next a dozen years, I probably had a handful of people saying, "Hey, you ought to do some film out of that." But more so than not, the folks didn't have the wherewithal to do it till finally in 2014 and 15, I got a cold call from a guy named Jim Packer. And Jim is an executive with Lionsgate in LA, plays out of Bel Air Country Club in LA, and had a longtime caddy, and he wanted to do on the side a documentary on caddies. And somebody had passed along my book to him, and we talked, and a lot of the documentary, the center line of that documentary is about the caddies at Augusta. Of course, we went to St. Andrews and Pebble and the Evans Scholars Program with the Western Golf Association and a lot of other locations, including Banded Dunes. Yeah, and so that was the part of that story. And those guys are professional filmmakers. A lot of them did surfing movies, And so some of them didn't have as intensive a knowledge of golf as some people would think, but I think that was valuable because they knew what the vistas look like in golf are similar to surfing. You want to show all the waves, therefore you want to show the big golf course. So we wanted to tell the story of how caddies had, like you referred to earlier, had gone from being sort of the guy in the bushes who drank all night into being a very professional, who'd been now a very professional person.
Oh, yeah.
Guys like Jim Bones Mackay, who caddied for Phil Mickelson forever, now caddies for Justin Thomas. You got Ted Scott, who caddied for Bubba Watson in his Masters wins, and now caddies for Scotty Scheffler. Those guys are the consummate professionals.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to tell that story from that start to where it came, but also you got to give some historical references like Carl Jackson at Augusta, Jariah Beard, who caddied for Fuzzy at Augusta, people like that who were sort of built the cornerstone for what caddying is all about.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It just, and try to get a bag today. It's impossible. These guys are making a lot of money and kind of, having a good life. And to get a bag today, you'd agree, is really, really tough because nobody wants to give the bag up.
Oh, you're right. You're right. And much like your general mindset in golf, if you're playing great, your caddy's the best thing in the world.
Absolutely.
If you're playing bad,
He's horrible.
Playing bad,
Yeah.
the last thing you're going to get rid of the caddy before you do anything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Oh, there's no doubt.
So.
There's absolutely no doubt. It's like baseball. I got to change the pitcher. I'm sorry. Got to bring somebody in, but it's
Exactly.
But caddies do a lot of work today behind the scenes. I don't think a lot of people realize it. Getting out there in front of everybody, walking the course, making notes, yardage books, the whole thing.
Hey, Dennis, you asked about that documentary. Bill Murray was the narrator for that documentary.
Yes.
And Bill's caddying ties are unbelievable. Bill and his brothers caddied in the north side of Chicago growing up. And the movie Caddyshack, the caddy master was played by Bill's older brother, Brian Doyle Murray. And that was actually the caddy master at the club where they caddied, who they used as the model for that role. A guy who gambled, a guy who, wasn't going to put up with the kids' pranks, things like that. So Bill was happy to do that as being a longtime caddy, which was really neat having him be the narrator for that particular film.
Yeah, we're going to miss Bill Murray at the Pebble Beach event because he's not going to play anymore, along with a couple of other celebrities. I don't know how people feel about that, but I remember when I was a kid first learning how to play, Ward, that the course I played at, which was owned by the city of Los Vegas, Los Angeles, I'm sorry. There was a cadre of caddies there. They're since long gone. But the caddy master, big old guy, great guy, his name was Pat. And he could go out, Ward, and play this golf course with a 5-iron and shoot just around par. It was absolutely amazing. And I'm sure a lot of these caddies still today could really, really play. And they're even more useful to the guy they're caring for.
Oh, no doubt. And that's the story of a lot of these Augusta caddies, was that they were black, so they didn't have the opportunity to play professionally.
Right.
They had to find another way to make a buck in the game.
Right.
Jim Dent, who was ultra successful on the PGA Tour and on the Champions Tour, grew up in Augusta and grew up caddying there. Mm-hmm. But he was big enough and hit the ball far enough and good enough that by the 1970s he was able to play on the PGA Tour.
Right.
There were a lot of guys that came before him that were just as good of players, but they didn't have the opportunity. So I think generally, I think it would be really interesting, in all this discussion about different formats, have a 72 hole tournament and then have 18 holes where the players got a caddy for the caddy.
Caddy.
That would be that
Yeah,
would be
that would
interesting
be aw-
because
that's
that
a-
would.
That is a hell of a good idea, Ward. That would be fantastic. That very, very good suggestion. If somebody were to fulfill a lifelong dream and be able to get on Augusta and play Augusta National, what would they come away with? What do you think their impression would be? What would they leave with as far as a memory?
Well, the golf course itself, my dumbed down perception of the golf course has always been, it's the easiest course you'll ever play from tee to the middle of the fairway, wide open, very little rough, fairways are wide. But when you get within 150 yards of the green, it might be the hardest golf course you'll play.
Yeah.
Because it's so much is meant for accuracy into the
Yeah,
greens.
right.
If you miss a shot 20 feet above the hole, you're going to probably three putt because the
Yeah.
greens are so fast.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's really, two pronged. And the thing also, and you mentioned this earlier too, when you play that golf course, you're familiar with every blade of grass from seeing it on TV. So you're walking on a cloud the entire time you're out there. You're not thinking about how you're hitting it. You just want to walk down the middle of the fairway.
That's right.
So you gotta get over the place you're actually playing. A lot of guys who Fuzzy Zeller was the last guy to win the Masters on his first trip to Augusta. A lot of guys are intimidated, not only the first year, but the first few years, because there's little intricacies on the golf course that you got to learn.
Right.
And until you learn them, you're not going to
Totally.
be successful there.
Exactly right. Totally. And that, I think Augusta is the personification of what you call a really good second shot golf course. It really is. There's a lot of strategy, course management, and, it all goes with us. Tell everybody that's watching us, Ward, how can they get your first book? And let everybody know when your second book's going to be available. We mentioned in the spring. How are they going to get it? How can they get it?
Sure. Men on the Bag, the first book I did in 2004, is out of print. That was a lot of the impetus for doing this book again, updating all the characters in the book, telling some new stories, things of that nature. So this new book, which is The Legendary Caddies of Augusta National, you can pre-order right now by going to Blair, BLAIR, pub.com. That's not a place where you go get a drink. BlairPub.com. That's the publisher's book, and you can pre-order the book at that point.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So hopefully, Dennis, a lot of the reasons I wanted to do this is a lot of those guys are dying. Jariah Beard died last year. Carl Jackson's now 76.
Yeah.
So a lot of those guys are no longer with us, and I think their legacy in the game needs to be told over and over again because of
Totally.
the impact they made, not just on the Masters, but on
Totally.
caddying in general. Yeah. So hopefully people will like to read these stories. A lot of them are humorous. A lot of them get some depth about the way the difficulty they had to become just to get to their workplace.
Exactly.
So hopefully people will enjoy those stories.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they will, and I know I'm looking forward to getting my copy. I hope I'm gonna send it to you for hopefully an inscription from you. Do you know Dennis Cohn, by the way?
I do very well. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. He will love this. He will absolutely love this. I saw him at the PGA show, and we caught up a little bit. But he runs the Caddies Association, and really, really good guy. So where do you go from here, Mr. Clayton, for your next book? Anything in the works that we could look forward to?
I don't know. I've got some ideas in hand. They're probably not. One of them's not golf oriented. It's more high school sports oriented. So I'm still working on that a little bit.
Okay.
But well, I'll be at Augusta this April, so hopefully, this story will continue to percolate and
Yeah.
go beyond that. And I'm anxious to see what happens with golf. At least when we get to the major championships, Dennis, that there's going to be who's playing and what they're playing for and everything like that.
Right.
And there's not as much
Right.
discussion about this topic.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Anyway, Ward, I'll let you go. Very, very interesting. We wish you nothing but the best with the new book. And I suggest if you have any kind of a golf library, you need to get this book in your library. So make sure you put that on your to-do list. Anyway, Ward, again, thank you very much. We'll keep in touch and hopefully get you back sooner than later, my friend.
Hope your weather turns into the desert again versus Florida.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Thank you very much, and stay well. All right, everybody. Ward Clayton, very, very interesting. We'll take our final break, and when we come back, we'll also have our golf minute for you. So stay with us. The revolutionary Power to Golf Club is helping golfers around the world continue to enjoy the greatest game of all. This amazing club requires no swing to hit shots from 50 up to 225 yards. That's right, no swing to hit shots, including fades, draws, low shots, as well as high ones. One incredible club does it all. Golfers with a wide variety of physical issues, including bad backs, hips, shoulders, and more, are now back in the game golfing with friends and family. Just set the club to the desired distance, and with a push of the button, the easy-to-use Power to Golf Club launches shots down the fairway and onto the green. The Power to Golf Club has been endorsed by some of the biggest names in golf, and the number of golfers enjoying the game by use of our unique technology continues to grow. Whether a physical issue or just want to join in on the fun, the Power to Golf Club is for you. Don't be left on the sidelines. Get back in the game today. Visit at powergolfclub.com. Hi, I'm Dennis Silvers, host of the 19th Hole Podcast for Golfers, and I'm here to tell you about some great wedges and putters from Grindworks USA. First, the Grindworks Barrett Collection Wedge Set. These wedges are unparalleled in today's market. The wedges come to you in 3 different lofts, 51, 57, and 61 degrees, all designed to be able to spin around the greens with the ability to hit high, middle, or low shots around the greens. Grindworks also makes a line of their Windsor Wells Precision Machine putters. This beautiful design of putter was not only created to be appealing to the eye, but to perform better on the greens. You will gain a ton of confidence to help lower your scores. Go to grindworksusa.com or call 281-651-4046. I promise your scores will love you for it. Hi everybody, I'm Dennis Silvers for 8 News Now with another Golf Minute. I'm with longtime LPGA teaching professional Karen Dunphy at a very iconic golf course, Las Vegas National. And Karen, as you know, most golfers hate slicing the ball. They want to learn how to curve the ball either right to left or left to right. What's your best advice for them on how to do that?
Finding fairways and hitting greens are really the backbone of playing good golf. So I have the alignment sticks on the ground to tell me whether or not my club is coming straight or a swiping motion. This motion here is how people slice the golf ball. If I make this kind of motion, that ball's going to curve left. So just to demonstrate here, I will make this ball curve to the right. There she goes. So we shouldn't really shy away from curving the ball. We should learn how to make the ball curve the way we want.
Thank you, Karen. Great information for people to learn how to curve the ball when they want. For the Golf Minute, I'm Dennis Silvers, and we'll see you all back next time. So long. All right, welcome back, everybody. Karen Dunphy is a very, very nice lady and a very good teacher. Anyway, next week we're going to try to get some interviews from the players from that are coming here from the Live tournament. That'll be kind of nice. So make sure to please check us out, and we will be back same place, same time next week. So until then, keep it in the short stuff. Get out and play some golf if you can. So long, everybody.